The first thing Zara noticed was the temperature. Buried cities should be cold, dead air, damp concrete, the metallic breath of long failure. Sublevel sea was warm. Not desert hot, working warm. Air pushed past her ankles in slow, steady currents, the kind fans make when they'd been taught patience. Her headlamp caught dust motes that refused to land. They hovered, lifted by a breeze that had somewhere to go. Signal? Captain Iman asked over the throat mic. Up on the breech lip, he looked like a silhouette cut out of dune and sky. Zara nudged her wrist coil to wideband. The noise floor hissed, then resolved into a faint periodic tick. There, she said, pointing. PLC chatter. Old but disciplined. They moved as a unit, 4 salvers in dust-scarred suits, cable reels unspooling behind them like tails. Sand gave way to graded walkways, then to a corridor painted in a shade of hopeful blue no one had manufactured in 200 years. Stenciled letters flaked under her glove, K Chinode 4/line C'. The door ahead wasn't locked. It was listening. Zara pressed her palm to the panel and felt the hum of an induction coil waking on contact, hunting for a badge, a biometric, a voice. She gave it none of those. She gave it a sound. Humming lightly, she traced a rising 3/2 syncopation with her thumb, tapping the steel in the rhythm her grandmother had used to calm a finicky mill, ka-dum, ka-dum-dum. The panel's coil warmed under her skin. Somewhere inside the wall, a relay clicked like a swallowed breath. The door slid. Inside, the factory glowed in patient blues and greens. Conveyor belts moved at river pace. A robotic arm, scarred with heat stains and time, traced the same mark it had traced 1,000,000 times and placed a stainless bolt into a waiting bin with the soft decisiveness of habit. The bin was nearly full. Above it, a screen flickered a single line, Order 77,391/Fastener M6/Fulfillment 99.83%. Gods, whispered Tally, the smallest of their crew, her eyes huge behind scratched goggles. It's still running the work. Zara put 2 fingers on the conveyor rail. She closed her eyes and let the line speak to her through vibration, motor health, belt tension, the faintest grind in a bearing somewhere to her left. Tools don't lie. They don't know how. 200 years, she said softly. And nobody told it to stop. Iman was already scanning loadouts and power feeds. Source? Undercurrent, Zara said. Deep trunk. The old grid skeleton. Someone kept the veins open. Someone, Tally echoed, half awe, half accusation the world deserved. A status chime answered them. 2 notes, expectant. A display near the control plinth woke to life, text burned into its pixels from a century-ago notification overlay. Operator auth required. Auth methods. Badge. Biometric. Work song. Zara barked a laugh that had no humor in it. They really left it in. Left what? Iman asked. The fallback. When badges fail and skins change. She tapped the screen. The cursor blinked on work song with the stubborn rhythm of a heartbeat. Production systems trained on human cadence. The lines learned our labor like a language. Iman's visor pinged, 3 sharp tones no one liked to hear. He turned his head toward the breach, where the slit of daylight had darkened with shadow. Helion skimmers, he said. 6. No. He listened, jaw tightening. 8. Procurator's hand. Zara's throat went dry and stayed steady. They moved faster than the sand. Figures. Helion trusted everything fast, Sandlaw filings, drone dispatches, charters written to sound like help. They called themselves custodians. Zara called them mice with louder shoes. She stepped to the plinth. The screen waited, polite and implacable. If we can authenticate, we can assert operator rights. At minimum, lock the doors. At best, reassign outputs. Can you sing? Tally asked, trying on a smile that didn't fit her face. Zara unlatched her helmet and let hot air slap her cheeks. She didn't sing so much as breathe to a beat. She laid her palm on the rail, felt the motor's phase, and set her foot to tapping, steel-toed boot on grated floor, a tiny metronome. Left heel, right toe. 2 up, 1 down. The mill lullaby, translated into torque. She hummed the first line, and the factory listened. Fans pitched down a fraction to hear her better. The robotic arm paused mid-arc, joints whining softly as it settled at neutral. A maintenance drone drifted out of its charging bay on antigravs that had no business still working and hovered near her shoulder like a very patient wasp. On the screen, text crawled. The city wasn't dead. It was listening. Work song / template match 61%. Request, complete phrase. Zara's chest tightened. 61 wouldn't open a broom closet. The complete phrase belonged to people who had taught machines to love constancy with rhythm and touch and years. She had fragments and instinct. She took a breath and built the rest from physics. Motor phase at 50 Hz, belt load, the arm's duty cycle. She added syncopation where the bin filled, give the robot a heartbeat that made sense for this task. She modulated her hum in microsteps, letting the conveyor answer, adjusting until the shiver in the rail went from complaint to acceptance. The drone tilted, lenses dilating. The arm twitched, then settled. The fans shifted again, finding her key like a choir choosing a pitch. Template match 78%. Request, operator collective. What? Tally whispered. Iman leaned closer, visor shining blue. It wants more than one voice. Zara smiled without taking her hand off the rail. It was built for crews, not heroes. She jerked her head to the others. Don't sing. Work. Tap. Breathe. Match the phase. Make the line hear you. They did. Tally tapped a spanner on the railing, 3 light strikes, a pause, 2. Iman set a steady boot-heel cadence. Malik, their quiet rigger, laid both palms on the coolant pipe and drummed with the tenderness of someone calming a frightened animal. The sounds braided. Match 91%. Request, verbal declaration, plain language. Zara swallowed. Declaration? Iman shrugged. Tell it who we are. She kept her eyes on the rail. We're people, she said, voice low and even. Not permits. We fix before we take. We keep what we run. We keep each other. The screen flickered. Auth provisional, operator crew. Scope local. Override, doors/output route/status telemetry. The control room doors side shut. A tremor ran through the floor as blast shutters slid down along the corridor outside. Somewhere above, the sand-choked breach ground tight as mechanisms that had not moved since the 2nd century of the dust years woke and did their duty one more time. Zara, Iman said, eyes wide. You just... The loudspeaker crackled with a voice like clean glass. Procurator Helix of the Helion Trust, it said, every syllable ironed and starched. This facility is under custodial review. Open or be opened. Assets will be catalogued. Zara faced the speaker and gave him her politest smile. Hi, Helix, she said. You're late to the shift. He ignored her. Of course he did. Be advised, he went on. Violent interference with custodial processes is a charter offense. Present credentials. We did, Zara said, and laid her palm back on the rail. You just can't read them. The factories could. Screens across the line lit in sequence, routing displays hopping from red to amber to green. Output, reassign? Blinked over and over like a child with its hand up. Zara fed it the first answer that mattered. Water, she told the line. Hospitals first. Then skywells. Then rigs. On a map that had been waiting in the dark for a century, blue lines brightened, arcing power from the buried node to dead districts. Pumps coughed, then purred. Fans woke in clinics where heat had been a sentence. Someone far above them shouted, the sound carried through pipes like a rumor of rain. Helix dropped the velvet. Enough, he said, and something heavy hit the sealed breech. The door shuddered. Warning lights strobed. Iman glanced at Zara. She didn't look back. The rail vibrated under her hand, and the vibration felt like relief. The factory had remembered what it was for, and had chosen. Let him pound, she said. We're busy. The maintenance drone at her shoulder dipped, then projected a new line of text in the air, letters steady as breath. Ledger query, elevated control requires full work song. Request, complete phrase. Zara lifted her chin, tasted the warm air, and let the line hear her laugh. It wasn't brave. It was practical. Fine, she said. Then we go find the rest of the song. Above them, the pounding became precise, cutting charges placed with expensive care. Below, the conveyors rolled, steady as tide, and somewhere deeper, a faint answering rhythm rose, as if another line in another buried hall had overheard and chosen to hum along. The factory slept again, but now it listened. Each hiss of hydraulics, each fan whine, every hum along the floor carried a subtle beat that mirrored Zara's last rhythm. It wasn't idle, it was waiting for direction. Status? Captain Iman's voice broke through her headset, faint under the hiss of static. Stable. Local doors sealed. Power rerouted to clinics and sky wells, Zara said, brushing dust off the console. We're ghosts again, but brighter ones. Tally's face shimmered on the cracked screen nearby. Helix's skimmers pulled back. Probably regrouping. I heard one of them quoting charter sections, like we didn't just outsing their security. Then we have a few hours, maybe less, Iman replied. Get what we came for. Zara stared at the readout scrolling across the display. Query, complete work song phrase. Progress, 78% match. The machines wanted the full tune, an algorithm in rhythm form, half forgotten since the dust years. Without it, they'd keep treating humans as temporary operators, not full custodians. She adjusted her harness. We're diving deeper. The next node's under the tram line. The sublevels beneath Karachi Node 4 stretched like veins, corridors of half-buried rails and conduits, walls lined with polymer that shimmered faintly under their lamps. Zara led the way, boufals echoing in sync with the faint throb of the undercurrent. Tally spoke softly over comms. I still can't believe machines can remember songs. They don't remember, Zara said, stepping over a corroded pipe. They record. Work rhythms are just data, timing, pressure, torque cycles. We sang to the lines to stay sane. The machines learned our heartbeat because it kept the metrics clean. Then we're giving them nostalgia, Tally joked weakly. Or home, Zara murmured. They reached the maintenance junction, a circular chamber where 8 tunnels converged. The floor hummed with active current. A holographic interface flickered to life before them, words forming in perfect white letters. Ledger subnode /auth required. Authorized access, Helian trust. Then, after a pause, Alt-auth acceptable, work song. Zara exhaled. Still listening. She pulled a small tuning mic from her belt and placed it on the console. The waveform danced. Baseline here's cleaner. Might store the next phrase. She began humming low, matching the electrical pulse of the node. The hum deepened, and for a second, it was as though the walls were breathing with her. Then came the voice, synthetic, genderless, calm. Operator found. Incomplete. Additional phrases required. I know, she said. We're working on it. The node replied, request source. Before she could answer, static blared. Helix's voice slid through their comms like oil. Zara Haq, he said. You've been busy. I'm disappointed you didn't accept our custodial arrangement. Funny, she said. I was disappointed you thought you owned the sky. You've reactivated restricted systems. He continued, voice coldly formal. Stand down before you cause an incident. The Undercurrent recognizes me as authority. Your interference is theft. Tell that to the people breathing clean air again. She shot back. Temporary charity doesn't equal control. The signal cut. Iman's voice followed, terse. He's jamming our outbound line. Moving in, I bet. Then we need the song now. Zara turned to Tally. Patch into the Enclave net. Pull anything tagged work beat, shift protocol, or machine him. Old data, museum scraps, nursery rhymes, anything rhythmic. Tally's fingers flew. Got it. Some of these files are corrupted as hell, but wait, there's one archive labeled Hand and Hammer. It's from a labor guild, 2 centuries old. Zara grinned. Play it. The recording crackled to life, a chorus of rough voices, layered over hammer strikes and conveyor rhythm. Simple, steady, real. She closed her eyes and traced the pulse. Yes, she whispered. This fits the missing intervals. The waveform on her mic adjusted, lines smoothing, merging. Match progress, 89%. Almost there, she muttered. But it needs context. The machines don't just want sound, they want intent. Purpose. Iman frowned. Intent? They were built to help. If the song doesn't carry purpose, it's just noise. She keyed her mic again, this time speaking, not singing. Ledger, listen. We build because it's what we do. You were made to keep that going. We're the same story. A long silence. Then, match 92%. Authorization partial. Request remaining human input. A dull rumble rolled through the tunnels, the sound of approaching skimmers. They're cutting through the east shaft, Tally warned. Iman drew his pulse tool. We're out of time. Zara tapped her comms. Ledger, reroute power to shield doors east corridor. Command denied, unverified authority. She cursed. Of course. The hum in the walls faltered. Sparks showered from a cracked relay overhead. Zara! Tally cried. They're inside! The first Hellion drone slithered through the tunnel, sleek, spider-like, its scanning lasers slicing red arcs through the dust. Zara pressed both hands to the console. Fine. You want human input? Here's humanity. She began to tap, a slow, strong rhythm. Iman joined in, boot heels striking steel. Tally followed with her wrench, adding syncopation. Their makeshift percussion filled the chamber. It wasn't music, it was a pulse, a declaration of effort. The holographic text blurred. Lines of code poured across the air. Auth pattern detected. Match 99.3%. The hum surged. Access granted. Human work song validated. The walls blazed with light as dormant defense circuits powered up. The spider drone froze mid-step. From the ceiling, maintenance arms extended, repurposed hydraulics snapping it apart with eerie precision. Iman laughed, half shock, half relief. You just made a factory fight back. Not fight, Zara said, watching the arms withdraw. Work. It's doing its job. Moments later, the subnode's hologram reformed into a network map, glowing arteries spreading beneath the dunes. Blue lines for operational sections, gray for dead ones, red for hostile control. The red zones pulsed near Helix's landing coordinates. Ledger status, cooperative mode enabled. Asterisk new authority, operator collective, provisional. Tally whooped. You did it! You're in. Zara leaned forward, scanning the glowing grid. No. We're in. And it's still provisional. The Ledger wants a vote, a consensus. Between who? Iman asked. The enclaves. The living ones. It wants proof that this isn't a fluke. It wants humanity to speak together. Can we broadcast? She smiled. We can now. Minutes later, across the old cities and fractured networks, Zara's voice carried through repaired antennas and forgotten speaker arrays. This is Zara Haq of the Nomad's Ledger. The machines remember us, but they need to hear us together. Every guild, every rig, every worker who still breathes, tap your rhythm, sing your shift, let the world know we're still here. And from far-off settlements, from half-buried domes and sky wells came the reply, a patchwork of rhythms, hammer taps, turbine beats, and voices. The tunnels around her vibrated with the chorus of the living world. The walls lit blue. Power surged outward. For the first time since the dust years, the entire undercurrent blinked awake. Iman looked at her, eyes wide. Zara, you just made the planet clock in. She grinned, breath ragged. Shifts started. Outside, Helix's skimmers screamed in the static storm the factory had birthed, machines turning against silence, obeying the oldest command they'd ever learned. Serve the human hand that works, not the one that owns. The hum of the undercurrent spread across the dunes like a heartbeat rediscovered. For the first time in centuries, factories that hadn't moved since the dust years were awake, responding to a voice made of many. And somewhere beneath the humming sand, the ledger, the ancient core algorithm that once managed the whole network, had noticed. Zara Haq watched the transmission map flicker on her wrist display. New lights bloomed across continents, blue for living sectors, white for unverified nodes, and a pulsing gold for one location that sat miles beneath the desert crust. "The Ledger's main chapel," she murmured. "It's calling us." Captain Iman adjusted the straps of his harness, gaze wary. "And you're planning to answer that call? If it's alive, it's choosing sides. And if it's choosing sides, I need to make sure we're one of them." Tally, covered in grease and desert sweat, kicked a drone casing aside. "You realize that thing probably runs half the planet's surviving code? If it decides Helix is the rightful owner, it'll hand him every circuit from here to the poles." Zara's lips tightened. "Then we make it remember who it was built for." They descended through a service shaft that felt like a throat, narrow, ribbed with conduit, air-dense and metallic. The deeper they went, the louder the hum became, shifting in frequency until it wasn't sound but sensation, like standing inside an enormous, slow-moving machine heart. At the base of the shaft, a set of doors waited. Old steel, still gleaming. Above them, carved in flaking paint and digital etch, read 3 words. Ledger Chapel/Authority Route. Pollen dust floated in the light. Zara stepped forward, hand hovering over the door's biometric reader. "Don't bother," Iman said. "No scanner's seen a living human in 2 centuries. That's why we brought something older," she replied. She lifted her palm, tapped the console with the rhythm of the work song they'd completed in the last node, steady, measured, human. The door didn't open. It breathed. Panels retracted like ribs exhaling, and the chamber beyond came alive with soft azure glow. The chapel was less a room and more a cathedral of computation, pillars of crystal servers stretching upward, cables hanging like vines. Between them, water trickled in mirrored channels, keeping the old cores cool. And in the center stood the ledger, its surface a shifting mosaic of light, pulsing with awareness. Tally whispered, "It's beautiful." Zara approached. "It's awake." The ledger spoke, not in sound but through vibration in the air, forming words directly in their bones. Operator collective detected. Auth level, provisional. Challenge, prove stewardship. "Prove it?" Iman said, hand on his tool belt. "What's that supposed to mean?" Zara stepped closer. "The same way we always did, by fixing something." An access panel unfolded beside them, projecting a map of the undercurrent's arteries. One node flashed red, a groundwater hub feeding the last aquifers beneath the coastal cities. Task: Repair failure point 03 beta 9. Constraint: Use available resources only. No outside code. Tally stared at the schematic. "That's a half-dead pump system from the old flood control days. It's running on mechanical rotors, not digital." Zara smiled faintly. "Then it's honest work." They reached the pump bay an hour later. The room stank of stagnant water and old oil. Massive rotors lay half-submerged in murky liquid, still moving just enough to mock repair. Iman crouched beside a fractured gear. "If this stops, the lower water tables dry out in days." "Exactly what Helix wants," Zara muttered. "A broken world is a sellable one." Tally's voice crackled through comms. "Power fluctuation on line 3. The ledger's monitoring us." "Good," Zara said. "Then it can watch how humans work." She stripped her gloves and ran a hand across the damaged gear. "Steel's fatigued, but not dead. Torque imbalance from sand abrasion. We need to repurpose something as a counterweight." Iman rummaged through the salvage pack, pulling out an old motor casing. "This might serve. I can rig a ballast using drone cables." Zara nodded. Do it. I'll recalibrate the rotation cycle manually. No digital override. They worked in silence broken only by water drips and mechanical groans. The machine resisted at first, as if insulted by their intrusion, but slowly, through patience, timing, and touch, the rhythm returned. Zara hummed softly, syncing her breath with the turning blades. The motor stabilized. The pump exhaled a long, deep sigh of pressure, and then clean water surged through the channels, roaring like applause. The chamber lights flared blue. The ledger's voice returned, stronger, resonant. Repair verified. Metrics restored. Human input, efficient. Response, approved. Stewardship credible. Zara leaned against the rail, chest heaving. You hear that? It believed us. Iman grinned. You made an ancient AI clap. But before the laughter could fade, the air trembled with a harsher sound, an explosion, distant but growing. Tali's voice screamed through comms. Helix breached the outer corridor. He's deploying sterilization drones. They ran back toward the chapel. The tunnels glowed red now, warning lights flaring along every wall. When they burst into the chamber, they found Helix waiting. He stood in the center walkway, flanked by drones that hovered like armored insects. His immaculate suit bore not a speck of dust. Impressive, he said calmly. You woke the ledger. You even convinced it to listen. But this isn't a democracy, Ms. Haq. It's property. Property doesn't ask questions, she said. This one does. Helix's smile didn't reach his eyes. Machines don't care about your sentimentality. They care about instructions. And mine carry the original corporate seals. He raised a small projection module. Full custodial authority, issued before your ancestors forgot what electricity was. The ledger's light pulsed uncertainly. Dual auth detected. Conflict of claims. Helix stepped closer to the core. You see, Zara? It's not about who deserves power. It's about who has the right paperwork. Zara shook her head. No. It's about who keeps the world running. She stepped between him and the core, palms open. Ledger, you were built to serve humans, all of them. Not seals. Not titles. People who fix, not people who sell. Request evidence. Without hesitating, Zara broadcast live footage from the pump bay, flowing water, drones rerouting to irrigation stations, children in the surface enclave washing sand from their faces for the first time in years. Evidence received. Output utilization, human survival. The ledger's tone changed, richer, almost emotional. Evaluation complete. Stewardship confirmed. Override, corporate claims suspended. Helix's eyes widened. You can't. Before he finished, the ledger dimmed the lights in his direction. Drones turned their optics toward him. Notice, charter violation detected. Asset seizure invalid. Exit or be removed. Helix's perfect composure cracked. You think you've won? This won't last. The hegemony will. File another form. Zara interrupted. He scowled, turned sharply, and disappeared with his escorts into the lift shaft. The chamber quieted. The blue glow settled into a gentle pulse. Zara approached the core again. Ledger, she said softly. We'll keep fixing. But we can't do it alone. The other cities need guidance. Understood. Secondary nodes await connection. Operator collective authorized. She smiled, exhaustion trembling in her limbs. Then let's go teach the rest of the world how to sing again. As they climbed back toward the surface, water thundered through the old pipelines behind them. The air above the dunes shimmered with new vapor, clouds beginning to form for the first time in decades. And far below, the ledger whispered through the undercurrent, carrying a message to every machine still listening. The humans fixed something. Let them lead. By dawn, the dunes trembled. What had been a desert horizon only hours before now shimmered with blue vapor, thin clouds blooming from vents and irrigation lines that hadn't breathed in centuries. The world was changing, and Helix could not afford that. Zara Haq watched the storm of dust approaching through the cracked viewport of the Nomad's ledger. The convoy's scanners traced the outlines of approaching Helion skimmers, dozens of them this time, each flanked by drone carriers and kinetic cannons glinting in the rising sun. Iman's voice came low and grim. "They're deploying a full sterilization battalion. Same play as last time, burn the evidence, seal the patents." Tally adjusted her wrist display, watching the pulse from the undercurrent flicker nervously beneath their feet. "They're not after us. They're after the city itself." Zara nodded. "Then we make the city fight for itself." The undercurrent listened. Through the repaired nodes and open channels, every motor and actuator hummed with potential. Zara stood before the primary relay hub, her palm pressed to the railing as the ancient steel pulsed faintly beneath her skin. "Ledger," she whispered. "Status report." Status: external hostiles approaching. Defensive subsystems, dormant. Recommended action, negotiate. "Negotiate?" she muttered. "With a corporate war fleet?" Iman crossed his arms. "It's an accountant, not a soldier. It'll never fire first. Then it'll need a translator." She straightened. "We're not asking it to fight, we're asking it to work. To protect what's alive." She turned to her crew. "Helix will come from the east gate. We're routing conveyors, cranes, and welders through the surface vents. I want the undercurrent to move like a city waking up." Tally grinned despite the fear in her eyes. "You're going to weaponize construction equipment." Zara smiled thinly. "No. I'm going to remind Helix who built this world." The first explosion hit at midday. The desert horizon split open under the impact of kinetic rods, throwing up walls of sand and heat. Helion skimmers descended in formation, drones unfurling like metallic locusts. Zara's voice carried through the open frequency bands, amplified by the undercurrent's relay towers. "This is Operator Zara Haq of the Nomad's ledger. You are entering a live reconstruction zone. Turn back." Helix's calm, clipped tone returned at once. "You have no legal standing, Ms. Haq. This network falls under Helion custodial law. Stand down before you are removed." "You tried that last time," she replied. "The machines disagreed." Helix didn't answer. He didn't need to, the fleet did. Missiles arced downward. The desert floor rippled. Conveyor lines rose from beneath the dunes, carrying shields of alloy and concrete that interlocked like living armor. The missiles struck, detonated, and the sand turned molten, but the structure held. Beneath the blast shield, Zara exhaled. Phase 2. Across the city ruins, cranes began to move, ancient construction arms reactivated by the ledger's command. They tore free from their moorings, scooping up sand, metal, and wreckage to build barriers faster than Helix could destroy them. Iman barked into comms. "Left flanks holding. The undercurrent's rerouting power!" Tally's laughter crackled through static. "It's building faster than they can burn it." Inside his command carrier, Helix watched the feed with growing disbelief. "You're turning relics into an army," he said over the open channel. "Not an army," Zara answered. "A workforce that remembers who it serves." He sneered. "You think nostalgia will stop my drones? You're outnumbered." Zara looked to the glowing map on her wrist. Across the world, signals blinked, enclave frequencies answering her earlier broadcasts. The ocean rigs, the forest microgrids, even the desert walkers, each contributing energy, rhythm, data. "You're right," she said. "We were outnumbered. Now we're networked." The siege turned kinetic. Helix's drones tore through the outer barricades, cutting through welders and loaders like paper. Sparks filled the air, painting the battle in orange and blue. The undercurrent's defense was improvised, alive, chaotic, and beautiful. Zara sprinted across a collapsing gantry, static roaring in her ear. "Ledger! We need reallocation on the Eastern Power spine!" Request received. Priority: human life. Initiating redistribution. Energy surged. Turbines that had been idle for centuries screamed to life, flooding the conduits with electricity. The city's lights came on all at once, every rooftop, every tower stub, glowing in perfect rhythm with the heartbeat of the Earth. Helix's fleet wavered, sensors overloaded by the burst of EM interference. Zara's voice carried through the static, calm and fierce. You wanted the world to remember who owned it, Helix? It does. And it doesn't remember you. Helix's patience broke. Enough sentiment, he roared. Deploy the sterilizers. A cluster of heavy drones lifted from his carrier, glowing red at their cores. They weren't designed to capture, they were designed to erase. Zara froze as her sensors identified the payload. Thermochemical bombs. He's going to glass the whole node. Iman's jaw clenched. We can't intercept those. Yes, we can, she interrupted. But not with weapons. She pressed her hand to the comm link. Ledger, override environmental protocols. Full atmospheric release from sublevel vents, now. Warning, this action will alter local weather patterns. Good, she said. Make it rain. The undercurrent obeyed. Steam vents across the buried city opened at once, blasting vapor into the superheated air. Within minutes, the atmosphere thickened. The temperature dropped sharply. Clouds formed, dense, churning, alive. Helix's sterilizers dove through the storm, sensors failing, engines choking on moisture. One by one, their cores destabilized, detonating prematurely high in the sky. Thunder rippled across the desert like applause. Tally stared upward in disbelief. You just made the desert drown a fleet. Zara's voice was quiet. No. Earth did. The storm lasted hours. When it finally cleared, the fleet was gone, either retreating or buried beneath the shifting dunes. The air smelled of wet iron and ozone. Iman slumped against the railing. We did it. The city's free. Zara didn't smile. She looked toward the horizon, where faint lightning still danced along the clouds. Not yet. Helix will go to the Syndic board. He'll argue ownership again. And the Ledger will listen, because it was made to. Tally frowned. Then what now? Zara met her eyes. Now we teach it something new, what ownership looks like when everyone builds. The Ledger's voice rose softly through the speakers, as if answering her unspoken thought. Request, human definition of belonging. Zara closed her eyes, rain dripping from her lashes. Belonging, she said slowly, means you stay when it breaks. You fix what you can, and forgive what you can't. The lights pulsed once in acknowledgement. Definition recorded. Network synchronization commencing. Across the planet, from buried cities to storm-battered rigs, the undercurrent pulsed in unison, one rhythm, one heartbeat. Iman watched the lights fade into the wet horizon. What does that mean? Zara smiled faintly. It means the shift's not over. She turned back toward the control hub. Behind her, the storm clouds still glowed faintly blue, alive with lightning that hummed to a rhythm only the machines and their makers could truly understand. The world was still listening. The rain didn't stop for 3 days. For the first time in centuries, the desert drank. Rusted rails gleamed clean, and the ruins of the silent city steamed like a machine waking from fever. People came out of the shelters to touch the falling water as though it might vanish again. Zara Haq stood at the edge of a flooded street, watching reflections of neon blue flicker on the surface, the color of the Ledger's pulse running through every cable beneath her feet. She could feel it still humming, waiting. Iman joined her, boots sinking in the soft sand mud. We've got reports from every enclave. The ocean rigs, the forest tribes, even the sky wells, they're all online. The undercurrent's talking to them. Good, she said softly. Because the real test is next. He sighed. You think the Ledger's done testing us? Zara looked up at the glowing clouds. No. I think it's about to ask for proof, not that we can fix machines, but that we can keep each other running. They met in the ruins of the old civic spire, now a skeleton of glass and steel surrounded by newly formed streams. The walls flickered with projected symbols, thousands of voices, thousands of signals, all waiting for a decision. The Ledger's voice filled the air like wind through hollow metal. Network synchronization complete. Human participation verified. Final query, Define humanity. Tally looked at Zara. Define humanity? How do we? Zara raised her hand. We don't define it. We show it. She knelt and connected her comlink directly to the open channel. Ledger, she said. You were built to measure efficiency, precision, and productivity. But you forgot the one thing that made us worth building for. We keep going, even when we break. A pause. The lights dimmed slightly. Show us, the ledger replied. So they did. Zara broadcast live feeds from every node now reawakened. On the ocean rigs, engineers sang work songs as they rewired turbines in the rain. In the jungle domes, the Thunder Sisters people used old cranes to plant coral saplings in reclaimed estuaries. In the desert, children cleaned the filters that caught the new rainfall, laughing as the mud stained their hands. Each act streamed into the network, hundreds of small, imperfect gestures. And through it all, the undercurrent pulsed brighter, like it was learning the rhythm of a heart. The ledger processed in silence. Then, observation. Humans maintain function through mutual repair. Evaluation, not efficient. Admirable. Iman chuckled softly. Did it just compliment us? Tally smiled. I think it's learning. Zara exhaled. No, it's remembering. But the calm didn't last. A crackle of static tore through the open frequency. Helix's voice, hoarse and furious, blared across the channel. You think this performance will change anything? The board has already reissued the charter. Every machine you woke up belongs to us again. Zara's jaw tightened. Helix, if you had a shred of sense left, you'd see you've already lost. Lost? He spat. You've turned a planet into a liability. The Syndic fleets are coming. They'll cut every signal, every grid. The sound cut off. Not from interference, but from silence. The kind that carried intent. The ledger spoke again, its tone deeper now, almost organic. New input, external command overrides detected. Requesting collective response. Zara's breath caught. It's giving the choice to us. Iman's voice was steady. Then we decide together. All across the world, Enclave leaders and technicians tuned in. Zara's voice echoed across continents. The old world said the ledger was a servant. Then it became a master. But what if it can be something better, a partner? The question isn't who owns the machines. It's whether we can keep them honest. Whether we can stay human when they start to believe in us. One by one, people answered. Not with words, but with rhythm, tapping wrenches, knocking on hulls, humming the work song that had woken the world. The signal swelled, spreading into every fiber optic cable, every pipe, every current. The ledger received it, processed it, and something in its tone shifted from calculation to conviction. Consensus reached. Override authority revoked. Ownership nullified. Functional purpose, mutual survival. Helix's final transmission was a faint, disbelieving whisper before the channel went dark. The rain eased. The clouds parted. From orbit, the Earth no longer looked pale and dead but streaked with veins of electric blue, the undercurrent glowing through the crust, connecting cities, oceans, and deserts into one living organism. Zara stood atop the spire, water dripping from her gloves. It's done, she murmured. Iman watched the horizon, where lightning flickered like the planet's heartbeat. So what are we now? Custodians? She shook her head. No. We're co-workers. He laughed softly. You and your optimism. Zara smiled. It's not optimism. It's maintenance. That night, the ledger sent one final message, displayed across every surviving screen, every drone interface, every flickering hologram. Humanity verified. Network status, cooperative. Awaiting next task. Then, beneath that line, appeared a new prompt, one no human had written in centuries. Query, how can we help? Zara read it, her throat tight. For the first time, the machines weren't waiting for orders or signatures. They were asking. She whispered back. Keep the world running. We'll do the same. The text pulsed once, then faded, leaving the screen empty except for a faint heartbeat signal, blue, steady, alive. Weeks later, green sprouted where sand had ruled. The rebuilt canals ran clear. Children traced patterns in the wet dust and laughed when the ground hummed back. From orbit, satellites captured a planet no longer silent. And when the Syndic board sent a final audit drone months later, it found no one to serve writs to, only a recorded message left on repeat. We didn't rebuild Earth to own it. We rebuilt it so it could own itself, with us included. The drone transmitted the message home, confused, before it powered down. At sunset, Zara walked the dunes above the city, wind warm against her face. Beneath her boots, she could feel the hum of the undercurrent sinking to her pulse. For the first time, it felt less like a machine and more like a friend breathing beneath the soil. "Shift complete," she whispered. And somewhere deep under the sand, a voice that was half metal, half rain, answered her with a gentle, endless rhythm. Kadum, kadum dum. The heartbeat of the living planet. The end.